a good moral life with good standard as a Christian.
耶和华对亚伯拉罕说
Jehovah told Abraham,
你要在人面前做一个完全。
be a complete man in front of others.
那么我们是怎么样的完全？
How can we be a complete
耶稣
person?
在登山宝训里面也这样说。
But Jesus, in the Sermon on the Mount,
没
Jesus
有完全像天父完全一样。
men were complete like our Father is complete.
公义的上帝要我们做一个完全的人。
So the righteous God would like all of us to be a complete person,
就是说有良好品格的人。
so that we will live a righteous
我
and
们
moral
举
life.
个例子，大家很认识。
I'll give you an illustration.
约瑟，
Joseph.
因为在旧约当中，我们知道约瑟这个人被他的兄弟卖到埃及去。
Joseph was sold as a slave by his brothers to Egypt.
我们知道当时约瑟生得英俊好看，
At that time, Joseph was handsome and good looking.
他在波提华的家中，这个军长给他管理家中所有一切。
So he was working for this high official who then let him look after the whole household.
什么都给他管理，
So he was controlling everything.
只有一个人不给他管理，
Only one person was not
你
managing
们
finance.
是谁啊？
Who was that?
他的太太咯。
And that's his mistress, the wife.
但是这个太太呢，你知道吗？男人呢经常在外的，
But you know that this about this one.
真的很寂寞。
The man was away, so she was feeling lonely.
看见这个美男子在面前，
And saw this handsome young man.
就起了一种不好的念头。
And there was an evil desire in
所以
her heart.
在没有人的时候，
So when no one was around,
他拉住约瑟，
and then she seduced
他
Joseph.
说：“同我上船吧。”
Get into bed with me.
约瑟怎么说？
What did Joseph
他
say?
说：“我岂能做这样事来得罪上帝呢？
How can I do something like this because and sin against my God?
因为约瑟知道上帝是公义的。
Because Joseph knew that God is a righteous God.
他不能做这样事来得罪他所信靠的上帝。
He cannot do something like this to make God mad.
所以他宁愿受监牢的待遇，
So Joseph would rather be thrown into jail
被人冤枉，
and falsely accused
关在监牢多年。
and locked in the jail for many years.
但是约瑟这样爱他的神，知道神是公义的，必然为他伸冤。
But Joseph loved his God and he knew that his God was righteous and he knew that God will make the wrong thing right.
结果怎么样？
What was the result?
结果上帝把他升为至高，成为埃及的宰相。
But God would raise him up so high that Joseph became
约
the prime minister
瑟
of
是
Egypt.
像今年的年轻人刚硬堕落、犯罪堕落的话，
But if he acted like a lot of young people today and are willing to commit sin,
上帝岂能用他？
how could God
所
then
以，弟
use
兄姊妹，我们的神是一位公义的神。
So our God is a righteous God.
万不为有，因为万不以有罪的为无罪，
And he would not regard sin as sinless.
是追讨人所犯的罪。
And he would go after all the sins that we commit.
因此，我们立定心志，
And so we have to have a firm faith
让我们愿意做一个不愿意得罪上帝。
and make the resolution that we will not commit sins against God.
今天国家的律法可能说 OK，
Maybe according to the legislation of a country that you may do so.
同性婚姻05年实现了，
And now the legislation would allow homosexual marriage.
same-sex marriage 已经在05年实现，
And that happened in 2005.
没有新娘新郎。
So there's no bride or groom.
所以我只是婚礼的时候看见那新的婚书里面，你们再不再有新郎新娘？
So when I started officiating marriage, I know that some of the papers that you have to fill out, there's no bride or groom.
是最近结婚人才知道，
And only those who got married recently would get to know.
只有 party。
So it would be two parts.
因为他两个你没有男没有女嘛，两个男人 人，哪个新娘？
Is it 2 men or 2 women? Which one is the groom? Which one is the bride?
将来丈夫也没有了，妻子也没有了，
So in the future there will be no more husband or wife.
不知道这个叫什么。
You don't know how to call it.
今天世人违背了上帝所设立的婚姻制度。
So this is something that men has disobeyed God and set up something like
越
that.
来越反对神，越来越的远离神。
And people are getting farther and farther away from God.
神看为羞耻、罪恶的事情，他们看为骄傲的事。
And even the things that we should be most ashamed of, people look at those as proud of them.
温哥华、多伦多这些大城市，
In big cities like Vancouver and Toronto.
纽约一个大城市，
And New York is a big city.
他今天说他们的大胜利、大骄傲，
And now they would cry out.
所以迎来了几十万的人来看这些热闹。
And hundreds of thousands of people would come and look at all these.
这只是今天离开上帝的西方国家所给我们看到的可悲的一面。
And this is a terrible thing that we see in the Western world that have moved away from God.
公义的神他们忘记，
And they've forgotten that our God is a righteous.
所以将来的家庭一定破裂，一定可悲可惨。
And we are certain that families will be
我
broken
们
up.
下一代真面对最大的危机。
And our next generation will have to face up the greatest crisis.
记得神是公义的，
But please remember that our God is
千
righteous.
万不得。
And you have to respect it.
种的是什么，收的也是什么。
And what you sow is what you're going to reap.
好，第三点，
And the third point,
我们要认识上帝是慈爱的上帝，
we have to get to know that our God is a loving God.
不但是活的，不但是公义的，他还是慈爱的。
A living God, a righteous God, but also a loving God.
上帝就是爱。
God is love.
所以在约翰福音书信当中，他直接讲明上帝的特性，他就是爱。
So in the epistles of John, he wrote up clearly that one of the nature of God is love.
在诗篇里面说，他一切所做的都有他的慈爱。
And in Psalms, it was written that everything that he did shows his mercy and his love.
若是我们现在在困难当中，
So when we are in difficulty,
你知道神仍然默默的爱你爱我。
remember that God is loving you silently.
我们无论顺境也好，逆境也好，
Whether our life is going on smoothly or not.
有上帝允许一些事情发生，
But if God would allow a certain thing to
对
happen,
我们有益处的。
it will be profitable to us.
所以大家都有这样子。
So we all have the same experience.
曾经有个故事，我短短的用时间关系把它简短一下讲。
Let me summarize a story.
有一个水手，因为船沉没了，他飘到一个小海岛上。
So there was a sailor because of the shipwreck. He then arrived at a small island.
他在岛上，因为经过好久的时间，他就建一个小小的茅屋。
And he spent a lot of time at this island by himself, so he built a small house.
他是一个基督徒，天天祷告神啊，你派人来救我。
Being a Christian, this sailor prayed every day and said, God sent someone to
有一晚上
me.
他走路散步的时候，
So when he was strolling,
不久他看见回头一看，他的茅屋被火烧光光的。
and suddenly when he turned his head, he saw that the hut that he built
他
was burned.
非常的生气。
And he was so angry.
神啊，为什么我辛辛苦苦建个茅屋，你把它烧光了呢？
He said, God, I spent so much effort to build this little
在那
house.
里怨叹他所信的神，
And he started complaining and hating the God.
所以倒在那边睡不好。
And he could not even sleep.
第二天早上，
The second day,
有人挖了小船在那岛上来，
there was a small boat coming onto this island.
他说：“某某人啊，
He said, so and so.
赶紧我来救你啊！到我这个大船在江中啊，在海中啊，你赶紧船上叫我来载你回去啊！”
I come here to rescue you on the small boat. A big boat is out there.
所以当他到了大船上面，船长就问他。
So when he was aboard of this big ship, the captain asked him,
我怎么知道你在这岛上呢？
do you know how I knew that someone is on
因
the
为你放火，有烟从岛上出来。
Because I saw you setting up this fire, and I saw the smoke coming up from
所
the
以我
side.
要派人去把你救回来。
So I sent someone on a small boat to
所
rescue.
以说我没有啊，没有帮我啊。
The sailor said, I never started a
哦，
fire.
他原来才想起来了，
And there they were.
原来昨天晚上我的茅屋烧掉了，
Last night my hut burned.
烟啊就上去了，是给人船长看见。
And the smoke came up and the captain saw it.
所以这个时候他就说：“神啊，赦免我怨叹罪啊！我真的要感谢你拯救了我的性命。”
And then at that time he said, God forgive me because I was complaining about you.
神感恩赞美从他心里发出来。
And his thanksgiving then emerges from his
所以
heart.
万事互相效力，就爱神人的益处。
So we have to help one another and we have to love God and we will all benefit.
我们家里也经历过一件事情，
And in my family we've experienced
在
this.
97年的9月4号，我们的家被火烧了一半。
In September 4, 1997, our home was half burned down.
有的会友就有的话传到我的口中。
And then some of the words of the members of my church and he came back to my ears.
这个怎么传道人呢？上帝不保护他，当然是他的家被烧掉了。
How come God would not protect a pastor? Half his house was burned down.
但是我们相信神的话，万事互相效力，就爱神人的益处。
But we believe the word of God that when we help one another, when we love God, we will benefit.
所以后来把这旧的把它撤掉了，
So we then tear down the old part
建立一个新的了。
and we build.
虽然有困难，
Although I encountered
但
difficulties,
神万事各方面的供应，
but God supplied me with everything in His own time.
保险赔金，
And the insurance company
其
paid
他
me back.
的我们也贷款一些。
And then we took up a back road.
正在那个时候，物价最跌落最低谷的时候。
But at that time, the inflation was so much
很多
depressed.
建筑工人没有工作，
And a lot of the construction workers, they don't have work.
所以我们借的时候是最便宜的，65块一方尺不见的。
So we actually paid very little. It's so cheap, $65 per
所以有的时候
square.
我们说患难啊，原来神的祝背后是祝福的。
So and now I knew that in the back, God was blessing.
好，我们掌握了一点，
And then the final point.
记得我们的上帝是信实的。
Remember that our God is a faithful God.
上帝是慈爱的神，所以我们对他的爱绝对信任。
So our God is a merciful God, so we have to depend on Him.
苦难、顺利都感谢，都赞美神。
Whether our life is smooth or whether it is rough, we praise Him and
但
thank Him.
是他不但是活的，是公义的、慈爱的，又是信实的神。
He is a living God, a righteous God, and a loving God, but also a faithful God.
他说话算话。
Whatever He said will be fulfilled.
我们今天人很多时候说话不算话的。
A lot of time, when we make promises as a person, it may not be fulfilled by us.
我们有的时候牧师传道也会啊，讲啊，随便讲啊，真的是听你的也做不到的。
Even at times when the pastor was preaching, was saying that, even the pastor could not do that.
但是神说的，他说话算话。
But whatever God has said, He will fulfill.
圣经当中有一个很好的证据，
And there's a good evidence in the Bible.
亚伯拉罕99岁的时候，
When Abraham was 99 years old,
天之爷，我们的神差遣天使对他说，
and God sent an angel to him.
那明年这个时候，你的妻子莎拉有生一个孩子。
Next year, this time your wife Sarah will give birth to a child.
莎拉在帐篷的后面听见了，就心中暗笑。
And Sarah at the back of the tent heard it, and she mockingly was laughed.
他说我这么老了，
She said, I'm so old,
我的丈夫比我更老啊，差不多100岁了。
and my husband's older than
怎
I.
么会有这样的事情呢？
How could this happen?
后来神这个天使告诉他，
But through the angel, God told him.
这一句话非常重要。
And this sentence is very important.
耶和华岂有难成的事吗？
Is there anything that Jehovah cannot do?
果然到亚伯